Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? My name is Dayveon Ross. I'm one of the founders of DD Sports ShotTracker. We bring elite level analytics to the masses. We're based out of Overland Park, Kansas, and really excited to be here to tell you a little bit about the company. We focus on all sports, but today I'm going to share with you our basketball story. We're really starting with basketball. Our product is called ShotTracker, and it's a sensor-based technology that can track statistics and analytics in real time. In a situation, whether it's practice or game, we can track multiple players, multiple balls, multiple hoops, all in real time. We do so with a small sensor that we place on basketball players. We have a sensor in the ball. Today we have partnerships with Spalding, Wilson, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, Molten, and Baden. So pretty much every basketball that's played in the collegiate and professional space. And then we put sensors in the rafters, which allows us to create this three-dimensional object and allow us to track player and ball within 2 to 5 centimeters. I'm going to play a video here that will give you guys a little more information about our product.
We use stats and data every day. Anytime we're in a 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 situation, we're statting the practice.
Right now, it's maybe 4 or 5 managers that sit there, or sometimes we'll wait till after practice and actually have a manager go through the tape and do it, which is not very good at all because it gets the information to us too late.
Every coach has told his team and every player, the film doesn't lie. Well, you know what? With ShotTracker team, the stats don't lie either.
At ShotTracker, we believe that stats and analytics are critical to every team's success, no matter the level of play. That's why we developed ShotTracker Team, the first system to capture complete statistics for your entire team. ShotTracker Team is comprised of 3 components: a shoe sensor worn by each player, a ShotTracker-enabled ball, and court sensors installed in the rafters. All these sensors work together to track player and ball movement in 3 dimensions. Coaches get tools and real-time reporting, including box scores, play efficiency ratings, shot charts, see who played well and where there's room for improvement, optimal lineups, see how players perform with each other and know their best lineups, live feedback, evaluate player and team performance based on play execution, post-practice reports, get a complete practice summary delivered to your email. With ShotTracker Team, players know their performance before they hit the locker room, and everyone knows where they stand come game time.
Anytime you can do things that encourages them to do more, charting, but you're doing it real time. They see right away. They can see over a period of time what it looks like, how many shots they've taken, how many they've made. It's good stuff.
Our game is changing. There's a new emphasis on shooting and many other skills. And the way for coaches at every level on an affordable basis to get that information in real time while it's happening is ShotTracker Team. This technology is going to change our game.
ShotTracker team, every stat, real time.
What do you guys think? Make sense? So at ShotTracker, we've powered over 100 games thus far in the last 12 months, from the NAIA National Tournament to powering the Junior NBA World Championships at ESPN Worldwide Sports. We have a ton of schools that are using our technology. We need to get UCLA, so we're going to work on that. That's part of my trip today. But we're going to make sure we work on that. But some really exceptional schools using our technology. And then the biggest thing for us is on Monday and Tuesday of this week, we're going to be doing something very revolutionary, something new with the NCAA, where on Monday and Tuesday in the Hall of Fame Classic, they will be utilizing ShotTracker and have technology on the bench that gives them the data in real time to make decisions. This is happening at the Hall of Fame Classic at Sprint Center in Kansas City. And we're really excited about the opportunity. As I mentioned before, we've got some exceptional partners. As you guys know, it takes a village. So we've been very fortunate to have some incredible partners here to help us move this technology to the next level. And So for ShotTracker, we unlock data for multiple groups, but today I'm going to focus on coaches, players, and then fans. First and foremost, we inform coaches. So what we've realized is that people love data. They don't necessarily love the process of aggregating that data. And what we've been able to do is aggregate that data in a very streamlined manner. This is an example of KU here. If you notice, we were able to look at their data and see exactly what insights we can provide to help them get better. The difference between 2 ball reversals and a paint touch was substantial for their points per possession and their field goal percentage. Just imagine if knowing that as a coach, you're able to make the adjustments necessary. Very powerful. For players, we provide them data all in real time in their practices and their games. Imagine being able to tell a player his percentage when he catches and shoots versus 1 or 2 dribbles. And then lastly, broadcasts. The power in our system is the ability to get this data in real time. Currently, we sample our data at 120 times per second, which is much faster than video. And when you do that, you have the ability to do these types of things within the broadcast.
It's really incredible. It's the future of analytics in basketball, really. Great game last night. Their bench. From outside,
Now that's how you watch basketball, right? That's how you watch basketball. So now, being able to sample our data, traditionally video is about 30 to 60 frames per second. But the real-time nature of this data allows us to work with Fox and ESPN and the other broadcasters and provide the data to really enhance the experience. Looks like a video game, right? Makes it fun and really enhances the experience. At ShotTracker, we have a saying. We believe that ShotTracker is to gyms as Wi-Fi is to coffee shops. Anybody here go to a coffee shop without Wi-Fi? You guys probably won't go back, right? So that's our vision. We believe that every single gym should have ShotTracker so that when any player walks in, they have the ability to put on their sensor, dribble their ball 3 or 4 times, and be able to get how they performed in real time. I want to thank you guys for the opportunity. We believe that ShotTracker is going to change the game, and I think we're going to have a brief conversation here.
Welcome back, Jay Tucker, for a sit-down chat with Dayveon, followed by audience questions.
Have a seat. Dayveon, that was great. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having tall chairs.
Well, that's, you know,
I appreciate that.
We accommodate all styles. So at the end, I heard you talking a little bit about, you know, what's in it for fans, what's in it for the broadcasters, what's in it for the players. All that stuff is crystal clear. In my experience, though, when we talk about technology innovation, it's not the case. You know, there's the old adage, you know, build a better mousetrap and the market will beat a path to your door, right? And we know that nowadays when it comes to technology, it's not that simple. Just because you have something that's better, something that people haven't seen before, doesn't necessarily mean you can build a business on it. And part of that is actually getting people to adoption.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit just about the process of getting these teams, leagues, broadcasters, stakeholders to actually adopt? You know, what is their motivation? How are you closing the circuit so that they see the value? You know, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so that's a deep question because you know, it's been an experience for us. You know, when we started off, just like most startups, you know, you go into the market thinking one thing, right? So we go into the market thinking, wow, teams are going to use this, using it for practice. But what happens is that people start knocking on your door when they see what you can deliver. So I think one of the really important things about being a startup is being nimble, being flexible. So, as you look to the market and you talk to the market, you get feedback on what's important and who's willing to pay, right? So for us, we were definitely signing up a ton of schools, and that's very exciting, but we saw a bigger opportunity when broadcasters started knocking on our doors. Now, when broadcasters start knocking on your door, you have to figure out, okay, what exactly does that mean, right? What would they pay for it? And how do they want it delivered? Because one of the things in the broadcasting world, so for instance, they use graphics engines, right? And some of these graphics engines are fairly archaic, and right, like these aren't like web clients. They're, hey, I put a machine in the truck. And so it's one of those things where we have to figure out, how do we deliver the technology to them in a manner that they're actually consuming technology today? So that was a big challenge for us because, again, it's not just one system, right? So we had to figure out, okay, how do we integrate with all of these systems? Now, we're a bunch of software developers, we have technical backgrounds. So the fortunate thing is that we built the technology in a way that it can be, it's just API based. So it makes it much easier to integrate, which also gave us a ton of flexibility as it relates to as these opportunities come up. Now, the biggest thing that we're working on right now is really figuring out like what to charge these people. And that's we know that they're willing to pay, right? But we also don't want to be like, hey, give me $10. And they're like, wow, we got a steal here. Like, we want to maximize what we can get for them because the value that they get is so substantial as it relates to what they can actually charge their advertisers, what they can do. So that's an ongoing thing for us as a startup, right? Really trying to get through the process, make sure we deliver it in a way that's not disruptive. Because you're talking about like older companies here, companies that have like thousands of employees. They've been here for a long time. So, and you're somewhat changing the mindset. Right. I mean, if you look at what's going on with, ESPN, they had to bring out ESPN Plus because, younger folks aren't necessarily consuming it via linear broadcasts. So those are all things that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And, we don't have it all figured out, but, by God's grace, we're going to continue to keep figuring it out and work with them to really, make that process successful for us as a company.
I love that. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have ever rolled out a new technology initiative in your workplace? A few. So here's one theory of the case. You've got a great idea, you've got great tech, but it's going to change Billy's job, right?
And Billy don't like that.
Billy doesn't like that.
I've been doing this for 87 years.
Right.
Why are you messing it up?
Right. So how do we get past that?
Well, part of it is, there's like a new fold of people. Like, you got to find one innovative dude that's like, hey, I'm trying to push the envelope. And if you could find that guy who's willing to take a little bit of risk, because most of those people are very conservative, right? Again, it's like, yo, I've been doing this the same way for 87 years, and it's not broke. Well, you think it's not broke, right? But you're just setting yourself up to fail in the future. So, you got to find that one innovative person, and then, nobody wants to be Blockbuster. That's what it comes down to. Anybody want to be Blockbuster here? No, we don't want to be Blockbuster. And I think that you have to find the leaders in the company, the innovators that are forward thinking and understanding that if we keep that Blockbuster mentality, Netflix is going to come in here and, you're going to be doing something else.
Yeah, I love it. So one of the things that struck me, you mentioned the video game element. We can come back and talk about that for the fans. But the three-dimensional nature of the data, the timeliness of it, the detail that's in there, these giant data sets, right? So you can actually review microseconds of what's happened on the court, right? Yep. In practice, in games, and so on. And it strikes me that organizationally, if I'm thinking about not so much the integration from the perspective of a broadcaster, but I'm thinking about how it changes coaching and players' preparation and game planning and adjustments and all this other stuff. You're talking about a technology innovation that is now changing what people can measure and what insights they can actually act on.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about that specifically in the context of basketball? How, ShotTracker in this way changes the way people actually think about managing and performing in the sport?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give a couple examples. So I'm sitting at a KU practice, right? And I have a great relationship with Bill and a lot of these coaches. And at the end of practice, Bill shouts out to me. He said, "Hey D, how many shots did my 3 guards take?" So pretty easy to look at the system. Man, 360. All right, how many 2s? 16. So he automatically used that as an opportunity to teach. Mm-hmm. And we're complaining that we don't get to the free throw line. Well, it's really hard to get to the free throw line if you're launching 3 bombs from 20, 25 feet, right? But in a full practice, you had 16 out of 360 shots, right? So what we're seeing is that, a lot of times coaches are saying, you just can't tell those kids. You have to show them. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is kind of the show me, audience here. You have to show them. And oops, sorry. And the ability to really, thank you. The ability to really have like substantial data to be able to point to and show them. I mean, we saw this again in the game. There was an NAIA tournament championship game where this one team had a point guard that was left-handed, right? So what he would do is he would come to the right side, come back left, shoot the J, killing the team on the right side. At the half, the coach goes in and he pulls up our shot chart and he's like, "What do you see here?" On the left side, this dude was 1 for 3. On the right side, I think it was like 6 for 8. And of course, at that point in time, we didn't have video for him to pull up because that's something that we're working on. But he was, able to use that and use it as an opportunity to teach and show people and help them make decisions. Mm-hmm. So I think that, we have a T-shirt that says stats don't lie, right? And I think it's true. Anytime you can get the data and to be able to use it to have conversations and to be able to show people, hey, this is what the data says. This is not the eye test. This is not what I think. This is factual. I think it helps to revolutionize the way you can approach and communicate with people, and we're seeing it on a day-to-day basis.
So I want to come back because you mentioned now the visual aspect of it a couple times. We don't talk about it enough in this context, but information doesn't change behavior, right? You got to create an emotional connection.
Absolutely.
That gets people to get up off the couch. Whatever is going to do that, fear, anger, envy, greed, shame, whatever it is, right? And so there's always a storytelling component, even with data.
Absolutely.
And I found it interesting when you were going through the video, you were showing different kinds of visualization. Some of them look like NBA Jam, he's on fire.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff in terms of showing player positioning, spacing, and all sort of stuff, you're instantly getting sucked in where the data is then self-explanatory.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about what your goals are for the platform and how much visualization you expect to do, and whether or not you expect other people to plug in using APIs or whatever to do their own, or where do you the visualization part of this as part of the strategy?
That's an interesting question, because a lot of times when we're dealing with coaches, I'm a comp sci math guy, right? So I geek out on the data, and what happens is that when you think about individuals who are, they want to consume the data, but they're not necessarily they don't get excited about ones and zeros like I do. Right. So it's really important to be able to put the data in a manner for them to be able to consume it. And so for us, visualizations are a really big piece. If you notice, everything that we try to do, I mean, as a human race, right, it's much easier for us to see and comprehend. So with coaches, we go through the process of asking them what data you want to see and how you want to see it. I mean, we still have coaches. So for instance, there's one university, TCU, where they were still printing out our screens and putting it up in the locker room. That's just how they consume it. And coaches wanted to write on it. And so now it's forcing us, okay, now we got to add some telestration in the app.
Right.
So, I mean, look, it's a continuous learning experience, and everybody consumes data differently. So we just try to learn. One of the things that I think our team does a really good job of is talking to the customer. At one point in time, we shut things down for about 2 to 3 months, and we made sure that not just myself as a founder, but everybody in the organization called some customers and talked to them. Because everybody's different, everybody wants to visualize the data different, everybody consumes it different. So that's just part of the experience that we have to go through to make sure that we're really focusing and delivering on visualizations. Now, for the future, there may be people that are better than us with visualizing our data. So that's the reason we have an API. I mean, I love like startup weekends and that type of stuff, because you can just give people your data, and some of the things that they do, man, you're like, wow, they definitely blew us away with, because they're not living and breathe it every day, right? They come with a whole new perspective, whole new experiences. So, I mean, we'll continue to do a good job, or a decent job, I should say, of visualizations, working with our customers, but I foresee people getting access to our data and doing things that, we didn't even think about, because we're just living it so often on a daily basis.
I love that. And, shameless plug. So at the conclusion of this conference, we're actually going to do a datathon in this room.
Oh, nice.
So in fact, I believe our UCLA master's program in business analytics is partnering with the city of LA. And so there are teams that have basically had access to city data and are supposed to make recommendations. So that's right after this, if you want to stay here and see how that all works. But to your point, I think giving folks a chance to actually look at the data and talk about having a chance to mess with it, and giving students a chance to talk about what they see, getting to the insights, not the data, but getting to the insights is a big thing. If we can kind of spread the data around a little bit, it's surprising what we can find out.
I mean, like I talk to folks and they're not expecting us to have it, but they're like, hey, can we get some of your data? I'm like, developer.shottracker.com.
Right.
Go play, sandbox, let me know what you built.
Now, speaking of which, you're a developer yourself, right?
Well, it used to be back in the day.
So can you just talk a little bit about your personal journey? So obviously, this cohort, folks have come into this room from a bunch of different vectors, but it would be good just to hear about your background and how that prepared you for this opportunity.
Yeah, so I feel really blessed and fortunate. So I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago. I graduated high school, 16, and started going to University of Cambridge, but in Trinidad, studying maths, further maths, physics. So I was a basketball player. I was a hardcore geek, and still am. And then I got a full basketball scholarship to go out to Benedictine College in Kansas, where I studied computer science and math. And I just think the journey's just really prepared me. I made a decision. I got a job with Sprint for engineering my first semester, my senior year. But I had like an awesome season and got 4 or 5 offers to go play overseas. And then Sprint through the game changer on the desk, they're like, and we're gonna pay for your green card. So I was like, all right, basketball, I'll see you later.
Right.
I'm good.
Right, phone company, here I come.
Get the green card.
Yeah.
So I did the green card thing and, did Sprint for a few years. And then my manager and director pretty much, I became a tech lead there, leading some of their customer applications, also doing development. And my manager and director literally quit on Friday, called me Monday. We had lunch Wednesday. I quit on Friday, went with them to do a startup that was focused on technology implementations in the call center space, similar to what I was doing at Sprint. Grew that group to about 100 people, and then we got bought by a public company. And then I didn't want to go with a public company, so I started a company called Digital Sports Ventures, where we syndicated college sports video to websites, mobile devices. So in our peak, we had the top 7 conferences, and we streamed about 1.2 million videos a day. So that was a little bit ago. So that was it was like ESPN, Yahoo, Digital Sports Ventures. And then that company got acquired by an ad network. Worked on my golf game for about 8 to 9 months. And then decided that, got a call from a friend who, knew I played ball and had a tech background and said, dude, I'm shooting it back with my son. How did you track this? I'm like, pen and paper. And I can't believe that they're still doing it. So that's where we started ShotTracker, and we've been very fortunate, raised capital from, Magic Johnson, David Stern, the owners of the Dodgers. I got a lot of LA connections here now, and just, some really awesome people.
So you're talking about 2 or 3 moments where you saw opportunities and made a decision.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about how you see business opportunities, how you recognize when something's worth pursuing?
Yeah, so for me, it's always those famous words, right? There's got to be a better way. And when you go through the process, you're like, no, this cannot be the best way to do this, right? So for me, it's about those famous words. And when I see opportunities for that, I'm always going through the market validation process, trying to figure out, hey, is the market big enough? What can you do? So, you know, I always like new industries. So for instance, when I was doing DSV, Digital Sports Ventures, like that was a time when, I forgot the name of the company, but they were like syndicating articles and then syndicating pictures. Like, you know, those companies, like to all the media companies, they would syndicate all the articles and pictures, right? And so I'm like, wow, they have a monopoly on the market. So like, I can't start doing that. So you know what? I think video is going to be, so I'll just jump straight to video to try and bypass. So I mean, for me, I always look at things that could be done better. I look at like the trends that's going on in the market. Being a technologist per se helps because you have an understanding, a good baseline in regards to like how, what, where, you know, level of effort, etc. So I'm always looking for stuff that's going to like push the envelope. I love to be on the cutting edge with ShotTracker. I'm a little bit on the bleeding edge right now, which is a little uncomfortable, but I always think it's okay to be just a little bit paranoid and uncomfortable because that's where like innovation truly happens. A perfect example of that is, you guys know we have a sensor in the ball. Well, when we first started, that ball was not rechargeable, right? So people don't think, hey, you put a sensor in the ball, that's got a charge, and that needs a battery, right? And you can't plug in your basketball, right? Who does that? Hey, hold up, dude. I'm gonna plug in my basketball before I shoot these J's. Like, you can't do that, right?
Well, people were pumping up their sneakers. Why not plug in the basketball?
Well, just scientifically how a basketball is built, if you don't have that done during the manufacturing process. So, you know, we were in a situation where our basketball was only lasting like 2 to 3 months. Now, that's good for the basketball manufacturer, but if you play basketball, you know you want to break that thing in. And if you have a new basketball every 2 or 3 months, players will get frustrated. So we set out to solve, how do you create a rechargeable basketball? Well, the problem was, you know, like if you think about the Apple iPhone, it uses inductive charging, right? So it's got to touch, it's got to sit there. Well, if you put something in a basketball that's just sitting on the outside, when you bounce it on there, it's either going to go left, right, or not go to the height. So what we had to do is be able to develop some technology that allows us to put the tech in the basketball so that you could actually imagine having your iPhone and it hovering 3 to 5 inches over the charger and still charging. So we developed and you know, filed, you know, we have about 27 patents that we filed. 11 have been issued thus far. But we filed technology that allowed us to do that. So now you could put it in as part of the manufacturing process and it works just like a regular basketball. Well, you know what? We were paranoid, uncomfortable, and struggling. Right, and that's why I say that I just feel like true innovation doesn't really happen until like you don't have a choice. Your back is against the wall, and you either need to innovate or die. Right. And it just forces you to really innovate. So,
all right, I love it. So, once again, I'm going to ask you guys to queue up if you have questions for Dayveon, and I'm going to ask you my last question, which is, you know, the next big innovation we talked about mobile video is 5G.
Yeah.
And so as people are retooling arenas to get high-speed bandwidth for mobile devices within the arena, and as people are now, thanks to 5G, will be able to use the wireless network to get things like real-time instant replay and stuff like that while they're sitting in their seat in the arena. Yeah. It occurs to me that the stuff that you've got going on can be really useful on the mobile platform to consumers, to fans.
Absolutely.
Have you, you know, talk a little bit about, you know, where you see opportunities for the consumers to get plugged in into...
Yeah, so we see a ton of opportunities there, and we're bringing apps and SDKs as we work with the NCAA and different conferences to be able to integrate. So, I mean, we're excited about it. With us doing this Hall of Fame Classic, you know, my partner was like, dude, we have to make sure that the Wi-Fi is good in here because, you know, when the Wi-Fi is bad and you're using the app, you don't say the Wi-Fi is bad.
You say the app
You say this
terrible.
app sucks.
Right.
Right? You say ShotTracker sucks. You don't even say, you know, well, it's not really ShotTracker. It's really the Wi-Fi. No, people don't say that. So we were at a point where literally we bought tickets to some concerts and put people all around the concerts.
Nice.
And I'm in the office shooting jump shots because it was a concert I didn't want to go to. But I'm in the office shooting jump shots and they're literally downloading the app and testing to make sure that on Monday and Tuesday, when people download the app, that they don't have issues. Nice. So, I mean, like, all of those are things that we're excited about because we're going to be able to really push the envelope. Imagine, like, some of the things that we do today in practice is imagine having a box score. And if it says, hey, Dayveon was 4-6 from 3, being able to click on 4 and bring back the exact 4 3-pointers, you know, sequentially, right? Like those are things we're going to be able to do with fans because, today it really is tough for them to consume the video. You think about AR. We have an app right now, which I thought about showing and I didn't, and now I regret it, but where you can literally put up your phone, touch the player, and because we know the location on the play, it brings up all the stats, Or you put up the phone and it hits a 3 and you see confetti. I mean, there's all these things that we're doing that are somewhat limited by just the infrastructure that we're excited about for 5G. People are already on their phones, but I think it's going to be just, amplified when you actually do have the connectivity. Most of us are on our phones and just keep hitting refresh until we get lucky, right? So we're very excited about that. We're looking forward to that future where we can really showcase what we could do with the fan and how we can really use this data.
I love that. Now, I don't appreciate you not being in the auditorium when I was playing my country music, but now I understand why that seat was empty. It's okay. All right. Here we go.
Hi. So I think it's really cool that you get all this data, live data, it's accessible, coaches. As you expand to live games, do you see yourself ever getting to the gambling industry or providing that data to
Who is
people?
this guy? Who's trying to set me up? Look, I think that, when the Supreme Court ruling, occurred, right, to start really proliferate gambling, we were pretty excited because, when we started the business plan, that wasn't really in the prospectus. And the fact that we have such granular data, I like to tell people, when you think about our data, you think about a golf scorecard, right? You look at it and you see, oh, he got a par 4. What it doesn't tell you is that he hit one out of bounds and he chipped it in from 120, right, and got lucky. And I think that's what our data does. It gives you the details and the granularity that's important. And if you think about, what's happening now with AI and machine learning, and if you have that type of granular data, think about how you can predict. If you have historical data, think about how you can use, whether it's hidden Markov algorithms or what you need to do to actually start predicting. So we're taking it one step at a time. As you know, the pros have really embraced it. College is just really tough when it comes to that type of stuff because of everything that's going on in regards to athletes and stuff. But we think that there's an opportunity there. We're just not capitalizing on it today, just given that we're focused in college and everything that's going on in the college space. But good question.
You kind of segued into my question about privacy and historical data. So if you have this historical data and you can find trends in certain players, what's the privacy concerns for maybe a family that sees that their kid may be identified or a player may be identified as either being really good or possibly not performing? But as we know in sports, sometimes the box scores don't always indicate exactly how someone can improve. So do you think that there may be some discrimination against players because of what ShotTracker may surface?
Well, I will tell you this. Sports is about performance, right? So, and how I think about it is, you can't really improve if you don't measure. So, as an athlete, I don't know how many of you play sports, but I wanted to know when I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing and what I'm doing right. Because if I know what I'm doing right, I want to do more of that because it's going to get me more PT. So from my perspective is, there's the eye test, right? So people know when you're not playing well. I'm sorry, they know. And people know when you're playing well. So I don't think of it as, discrimination per se because we want the best athletes to perform. We hope that the folks that are, not on the uptrend are seeing and using the data to go be shooting more jumpers and getting some time in to get better. So, look, I think the fact is that you're going to give people data that says, hey, he's doing good or he's doing bad, right? The difference is that now you have the data. How do you react to it? Just like in our jobs, right? In our jobs, when you get a performance review, you're supposed to, hey, this is what I like that you're doing. Okay, I'm going to keep doing that. And these are the things that, I need to work on. Well, okay, I need to work on those things. So I don't necessarily see it as discrimination, but hopefully you could appreciate where I'm coming from.
So it's obvious why starting with indoor sports, you have the rafters to put sensors on, right? But thinking to the world's biggest sport in soccer and thinking about drone technology, do you guys have plans or thoughts of trying to take this to outdoor, to the field, and kind of expanding it that way?
Keeping it real, we want to take over the world. We just don't have the budget right now. But we want to take over the world. Let's keep it real. Yeah, indoor sports are easier for us, but we do have a ton of aspirations to, I mean, our company name is DD Sports, right? It's DD Sports with ShotTracker being that product focus on basketball. We think volleyball will be really easy because you're already in the stadiums, like, oh, I just put a sensor in a ball then. But yeah, we do have aspirations. We've gotten approached for hockey. We get like sales requests inbound from like people in Europe all the time for soccer. And you know, I personally have the shiny object syndrome, so it's really important for us to focus. So although we have these big aspirations, I got to come back down to earth and really focus on knocking basketball out of the park. And if we execute and do that, then like the world will be our playground. So technically, we can make it happen.
Hi. Where do you see predictive analytics playing a role in ShotTracker now, and how do you see prescriptive analytics playing a role in ShotTracker at some point in the future?
You know, anytime you have data and historical data and data over time, I mean, just in general, like analytics is going to play and predictive analytics is going to play a significant role, right? Because as basketball players, you know, I'll give you guys a little bit of insight here. Like, I was much better turning to my right side. I'll tell you that now. I wouldn't tell you that when I was playing. But I was much better turning to my right side. And I think that, you know, if we had the data now, if we had the data back then that we have now, then you could run, like we're starting to run, as I said, hidden Markov, you know, algorithms to understand and try to predict tendencies. And that's sports. Like a lot of athletes, like James Harden's tendency is to take an extra step. I mean, consistently, right? So like there's things that every athlete has. So I think once you get into granular type of raw data, it's going to open up the opportunity to predict and to be able to utilize all type of algorithms to be able to forecast with some level of confidence and some level of probability. So I think it's going to play both predictive and prescriptive. It's going to play a pretty extensive role in the future because, you know, data is power.
So I want to just amplify that with respect to when you were talking about the benefit for fans. So, you know, I was talking to a novice friend of mine. I'm from Queens, so I'm a Mets fan. Once, pretty much a generation, we actually make it to the World Series. So I'm talking to a friend who doesn't really know much about baseball and trying to show them what to look for, right? So one of the things about whether in soccer, actually, because of offsides and certain idiosyncrasies, cricket, volleyball, there are certain rules that are not intuitive, even in the NFL, where you're watching the sport and you don't necessarily understand the totality of what you're watching. One of the kind of most magical things about sports is that it all seems spontaneous because the bodies are always moving, but folks have spent days, weeks, months preparing for certain situations, trying to do certain things consistently well, right?
Yes,
in
right.
baseball, for example, what you can look at, you know, when you're bored, because I'm the only one that still watches baseball, but you can look at where the catcher sets up his target with the mitt and where the ball ends up.
Yes.
Right? If the ball ends up there, whatever the outcome, the pitcher executed what was requested. If the ball is going someplace else, whatever the outcome, the pitcher made a mistake. Right? This is true with respect to the NBA. You can look at defensive positioning. This is true when it comes to the NFL, and you look at coverage reads. Right? So the quarterback making decisions about what he thinks the defense is trying to do. Right? These are things that become much more obvious if I can provide the data in real time, visualize it appropriately so I can call a viewer's attention to something.
That's right.
And in that way, you can actually enhance the enjoyment of the experience, particularly for people, you know, low information fans.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, when I think about like my regimen when I played in college, like I used to shoot some days 500 makes, some days 1,000 makes a day, right? When you go to the gym, you're in there for a couple hours and like you have a routine. I shot every free throw in my college career, except for my freshman year when I shot 52%. But the 3 years sophomore through senior, I shot every free throw the same exact way. Even today, if I pick up a ball at the free throw line, I can't even help myself. It's second nature. So I think that, like, as humans, you know, it's really easy to predict this if you just look. I mean, I think about, like, in our scouting reports, coach would tell us, hey, if he makes this extra step, he's going for the J, because that's what he does. So I think that, you know, and that's what studying film tells you, like, really good corners. I've seen it a ton with corners. When corners are studying wide receivers, they look at the move you make before you make the move, and they use that to determine what you're going to do. Or they look at the move the quarterback makes before he makes the move. So, I mean, I think you're 100% accurate in regards to sports. And I think when you now have the data, you don't have to just rely on the eye test. So on the eye test, you see, like, once in a while situations. But when you have the data, you're going to be able to point out hundreds of those situations. And then you add, like, ML, machine learning application to that, artificial intelligence. And that's where, like, people who don't embrace data and analytics are not going to be around in the coaching realm, because they're going to lose. Because people, I mean, Golden State Warriors is a great example, right? The Rockets is a good example. When you get a chance, if you guys are bored, go look at a Rockets shot chart after their game. The Rockets do two things. They either take you to the cup or they shoot from three. Like, the whole middle of the basketball court, nothing. It may have one or two, but nothing. And that's based on analytics. They figured out that the probability of, you know, shooting it, if I shoot threes and layups that are higher percentage points, I have a higher probability of beating you. So yeah, it's going to be an analytics-driven world, not just in sports and everything. And I'm excited. That's why conferences like these are awesome, right? Because it starts making people think about, like, the future. And hopefully you guys leave here with, you know, some inspiration from all the exceptional speakers to think about ideas in your world that, you know, there's got to be a better way. So
Love that. I'm going to leave it there. Dayveon, thank you so much.
I appreciate you, man.
Hope you guys enjoyed it.